I have already pressed record, so my note to myself worked.
Should I be pushing my maybe mute thing? Or
Sure, yeah, you can mute for now.
where is it?
Bottom left-hand corner. So, okay, so this is the using Zoom component. You have a window, especially if you're using a Macintosh or a PC. Your Zoom appears in a window. And around the sides of the window, there are different control buttons that appear when you hover your mouse over it. Down in the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom window, there is a little picture of a microphone. And if you click on that, it'll mute your microphone. And if you click on the microphone again, it'll unmute it. I ask you that while our speakers are speaking, you do mute your microphone because every time you talk to other people or your dog barks or anything, or you start moving equipment around, we can hear it at this end. So if you can do that, that would be great. Down on the bottom of the screen, there is a green button that says share screen. That is unfortunately active for everybody. Please try and avoid clicking on that by accident. Judy and I should be the only people clicking on the share screen button because it'll share your screen, and if you have anything embarrassing up, everybody will see it. So try and avoid doing that. Also, down in the bottom, the other important button is something called the chat, and that is how you will chat with other people here in the webinar today. After Judy has finished her presentation, she will be welcoming questions, and you can ask your questions through the chat button, and Richard and I will be moderating the questions. And you can also comment to each other, as people often do throughout the presentation. And that's really about it for Zoom. If you need to leave at any time, there is a leave button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen if you're using a PC. On an iPad, I'm really not sure where that is on your screen because it all looks different, so I'm sorry. And if you do leave, that's fine. Just leave, and nobody else will be affected. But we will miss you. That's all. We will probably finish today by after today's session should go probably about 90 minutes. But if you need to leave after an hour, that's fine. Judy's presentation will be finished, and you will still have an opportunity to ask questions. Upcoming webinars and events. Tuesday, December 17th is Cafe La Brain with a special guest, Susan Parker, who's going to lead us in a session of online laughter yoga. I've heard of laughter yoga being done by telephone. I've never heard it being done in a webinar with video conferencing. And we thought that with the ability to have 25 people on video, we would give this a shot. So that's next Tuesday, December 17th. January, we're taking a break, but Tuesday, February 11th, we're back with a special panel that we are in the process of putting together. And it's going to be an opportunity for the experts to learn from people with dementia who will have a conversation with representatives from the medical community. And then Tuesday, February 18th, third Tuesday of the month, is Cafe La Brain again. We always have our calendar of events updated at our website, www.minds-meeting.com. And on that website, there's also a donations button. And I thank everybody who has donated so generously, everywhere from $1 up to more. And I welcome that because that helps to meet the costs of the Zoom every month, which does cost us every month, and also web hosting and other expenses. So thank you. And one big thing I'd like to talk about before Richard introduces Judy is that a group of people with dementia from North America have gotten together with Richard and myself, and we are raising money to sponsor people in this group and others to attend the Alzheimer's Disease International Conference, which is May 1st to the 5th next year in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Why is it important for people to go to the conference? Well, this is the one conference that I know of where people with dementia are welcomed as active participants throughout the conference. And they have an opportunity to connect with other people with dementia who are advocates in their own countries and who then come back to their own communities and have the opportunities, well, they know now how to be advocates for themselves and for organizations in their own communities. They will also be invited to be session speakers and chairs of sessions. and they'll have access to international resources by meeting people from organizations around the world, really. And we find that people are empowered and they have a lot of fun. And fun is really important because it just is. So we are raising at a minimum $25,000 to send a delegate at roughly $2,000 per person, depending on where they're coming from in the country. And if you are able to join our consortium, you'll see that I have a little graph there. The red is what we still have to raise, but the blue, I am pleased to say, is money that we have already raised through a contribution from the Murray Alzheimer's Research and Education Program at the University of Waterloo. And thank you to them for being our very first sponsor. We really appreciate it. So I encourage you to think about how you can join our consortium through your organization, through people you know, through organizations, through church groups, or whatever. And yes, Kathy, I have been encouraged by my husband actually to try a Kickstarter project, and I think that is something that we should be looking into. If you're able to contribute or you have some ideas, please email me at laura@mindsetmemory.com. Or you can find me through our website, minds-meeting.com. Okay, without further ado then, I'm going to stop share. Bring Judy and Richard back. Richard present. Okay, Richard, take it away.
Good morning to one and all. I know a lot of people. I've met a lot of people in my travels, and Judy Berry is one of the famous people that I've met. I've met a lot of wonderful people in my travels, and Judy Berry is one of the wonderful people that I have met. I've spent time at her home on one of Minnesota's 10,000 lakes. I have spent time in her 2 communities. I have seen the world's largest ball of thread collected by one man in Darwin, Minnesota, the home of one of her homes. I'm become friends with her husband, Julius, who's published a couple of my DVDs. And I've been amazed by Judy Berry. Judy is a Robert Wood Johnson Fellow, a Community Health Leader Award winner in the truly prestigious award she received from them. She was a finalist in the Purpose Prize Award, and she is a fellow with the Purpose organization. And she's the owner of 2 of the most, well, I guess she was the owner now. She's the consultant and the founder of 2 of the most innovative and imaginative homes I've ever been in for people with dementia, especially for people in their latter stages. And they're both in Minnesota, so it's both cold. They're both cold up there, but it's lovely summers they have there. Judy's mother had dementia, and when her mother was asked to leave a nursing home because of problem behaviors, as they characterized it, and Judy couldn't find a place for her mom, she took her into her own home. And then she saw that there were a lot of panicked people in rural Minnesota who had family members who were being kicked out of nursing homes because nursing homes didn't understand people with dementia. And so she ended up with 5 people staying in her own home to take care of. That's grown into 2, how many people? 35 people homes now, I believe. She has a model of dementia care that I think you'll find amazing. She's in a rural community, and so rural amenities that she has in her home. And it just gives me a great pleasure to introduce my good friend, Judy Berry. Welcome, Judy.
Unmute. Thank you, Richard. That's a really glowing introduction. I'm not really exactly like Richard puts on. Just another person out there advocating for appropriate care for people with dementia. I do, I really, really appreciate Richard and Laura inviting me to be here today to share some of the things that I've learned along my journey. And I also am really excited about being able to hear from those of you out there who have a diagnosis or who are dealing with the symptoms of dementia. So please learned, and I'd like you then to give me feedback on, I've learned so much from our residents that we care for that I really, really want people out there that to know the people care, and that we all have to speak up, stand up and speak out, and advocate for better, more appropriate care. And also I'm hoping my presentation can help family caregivers some, because it's some of the things that I've learned that are actually barriers to appropriate care for someone with dementia. And with that, I will do it. Put up a slideshow. Oh wait, I don't think I shared, did I?
Not yet.
Okay, here. Share screen. This. Okay. Sorry about that. We practiced yesterday, but I guess I didn't do well.
Yeah, I just, Judy, if we can just stop there for a second. Yeah, we're getting there. Judy was experiencing some internet problems yesterday, as was I. I'm also hearing the sort of metallic ringing sound. It kind of comes and goes. It's not too bad, Judy. We're getting a little bit of feedback, and your video disappeared for a second. I think because it's so cold in Minnesota, maybe the internet is frozen.
It's frozen up.
So we apologize. It's a little bit beyond our control, but if you're hearing that metallic and echoing sound, that's why, and there's really nothing we can do about it. So just bear with us, and we'll see how it goes. Kind of comes and goes from what I can hear. If everybody can try and keep their audio muted, believe it or not, that actually will help. So on that note, I'm going to mute myself as well.
Okay, can people hear me? I guess everybody's muted. They can't tell me. Oh, wait, I need to put this over here, I guess. I guess I'd like to start with one of the major things that I've learned through this process of caring for my mom, watching the system treat her really inappropriately. My mom was kicked out of 12 places in 7 years, and she was medicated to a point where you couldn't even tell who she was. What I'm learning, or what I have learned, is that people have a certain expectation of, caregivers, and people who don't understand have a certain expectation of how people with dementia will and should act. And when they act differently, they put a label on them, and things like the long goodbye, things like they're fading away. And I felt that it was really, really critical, I feel, that we need to change the paradigm. We need to change it globally so that people understand that people with dementia, even advanced dementia, when they lose communication skills, are still in there and still the very, very same person they've always been. The only thing that's really affected, among some other physical things, but is their ability to communicate their needs, to let you know that they're there. they have the same feelings and emotions. And the thing that I saw most that affected my mother was that her emotional needs were not being met. And every time she would have emotional needs that were not met, she would act out to get them met. And yet they told me that that was just part of dementia. And I knew differently, but I couldn't convince anybody. So, all right, what am I doing here? I guess we'll get through with the, I'm just going to go through this quick. Most of you probably know about this, but I am going to just run through it quickly. What is dementia? Dementia is not Alzheimer's. Dementia is a group of symptoms. It's just an overall umbrella. A group of symptoms caused by changes.
They said
I
the
hear
wires
somebody, but some of it's reversible, some of it is not reversible. No two people are ever alike. And in the current system, they look at treatment of symptoms only, not the person and the need. It's just the symptoms that come from people not getting their needs met. Some of the major causes of dementia, I guess everybody's heard of Alzheimer's, and that's probably accounts for close to half, but there are so many other causes: vascular dementia, frontal temporal dementia, Lewy body. All those things are out there and probably more prominent than doctors identify. With my work at Lakeview Ranch and dealing with the 180 people that have come through the ranch, we've learned often people are misdiagnosed with Alzheimer's and actually have some of these others or have them in tandem with Alzheimer's. And the importance of knowing the cause is that there are different things that go along with these different types of dementia. And when you're trying to communicate with someone, it's critical that you're aware of the things that are foremost in some of the presentation. People with Lewy body or frontal temporal dementia are, much more emotional. And, one of the main things is that people don't understand that one of the first things that happens with any type of dementia is that your inhibitions are affected. The frontal part of the brain that controls inhibitions. Most families or people caring for people with dementia or the people themselves will see changes in things that they normally wouldn't have said, and all of a sudden it just comes out. I remember my mom saying that she would go downstairs in her assisted living to play cards, and after a while she just quit going because she said she formed what she knew she wanted to say in her mind, and when she opened her mouth, different words came out, and it was very, very embarrassing. And she said she had no control over it. She never knew when the words were going to come out the way they were supposed to, or a different way. But one of the critical issues is that caregivers and family members need to understand and feelings as you. And you need to validate my feelings. Just because I have dementia doesn't mean that people should walk away from me or treat me differently. I hear this all the time from our residents and the people who are able to communicate verbally are very upfront. We talk to them often about some we've heard to my caregiver, remember, please, all I want is to be recognized as an individual with a name and a past. Get to know me, know who I am. I'm a real person. And they want to feel safe and feel comfortable in their environment. And, you know, as people, you'll hear people with dementia often asking to go home. And we've learned that home is not like those of us that do not have dementia think we know what that person is saying and wants. It is, it just doesn't work that way. Most times the person is talking about a place called that they call home, that's just a place where they felt safe in their life. They felt safe and they felt whole. I don't know how to do that. Okay. What I really need to have my feelings validated. Treat me like a human being. I'm still here. I want to be understood. I don't want to be treated like I'm not a whole person or that my feelings don't matter. They need to be given choices. Person with dementia or any type of Alzheimer's, they don't lose their need to make choices. It's just like having to make choices in life about things. They may need assistance with some of the things, but they still have feelings and they still have a right to those feelings and a right to say, I don't want to take a bath right now. We have people who get, you know, they have a bath when they want to. I say to the staff, if they don't want to, I've never heard of anybody that died from not having a bath at 3 o'clock on Thursday. Choice is huge. Please allow me to experience a sense of control over my life. There is no reason because of a diagnosis with dementia that other people have to control our lives. You know, we are able to make decisions, to have choices, and those choices should be respected. One of the major things in understaffed long-term care is that they move you in there and right away all your choices are gone. They tell you when to eat, when to poop, when to, you know, excuse me, that wasn't very professional. But to experience minimal stress with adequate positive stimulation. Now, you know, we do animal therapy, we do a lot of music therapy. I think if Julie Rice is out there, she recognizes the gentleman in the picture is her father when he was with us. They have a right to experience pleasure. You know, those of us that provide care, we need to pay attention to that. We need to know what it is that causes pleasure for each individual because they're all very, very different. Our perception hinders our response. Preconceived ideas, you know, about how someone should act or if in fact they're answering the way we expect them to answer, that clouds our judgment. It keeps us from being able to just be there with the person and to connect with them on an emotional level. Our expectations of how they should feel and act are one of the major barriers to anyone giving or providing appropriate care and validation for people with dementia. Our own feelings we need to manage because, you know, we take their responses personally. And for someone with dementia, they're trying their darndest to communicate, but sometimes the responses aren't what we would consider appropriate, but for them it is. I mean, I remember when I first started, I had a gentleman standing on a chair on top of a table when I walked in the room, scared me to death. And I said, you really need to get down now, and I'll help you down. And he says, get out of my way. You don't care about me. And he just went on, and I remember initially feeling crushed, but you realize that he was just responding to my coming at him rather abruptly, trying to get him off a chair. And we do have to change our perceptions. We have to change our expectations. We have to let go of preconceived notions about what happens to people as they progress with dementia. Communication is all about feeling as dementia progresses, and this is something I learned with my mom, and also then it was just a gut feeling that I knew that her behavior issues, were coming from unmet emotional needs. And as we've taken care of people throughout this last 15 years and gone with them through their journey all the way through death, as the dementia progresses, it becomes more about feeling, about emotion. Once they can't tell you, they just want to be recognized and want you to tell them that you love them. Tell them that it's okay. You understand. You can't fix it, but you can comfort them. You can tell them they're loved. You can ensure that they feel safe. And you need to know, I've had them say, I remember with my feelings. It's not about what I can and can't remember. It's about what I feel and how you make me feel. Some of the common myths are the things that get in the way of many, many people out there still believe the person's fading away. Myths like I'm fading away, I have somehow changed from who I was, I am in the midst of the long goodbye, I am a shell of who I used to be, I have lost my soul, why bother, I won't remember anyway. I have so many people that I've run into that believe these things. And I guess that's what I've learned, that I have to do a lot more training in helping people understand that that is not the case. This picture is a lady that was with us for a long time, and she was passing away, 3 hours from passing away in this picture. And she, our animal therapy gal, was out in the other room with the rest of the residents, and we knew how much Elsie loved the animals. And so at the end of her session, she brought the miniature horse in, and Elsie had not been responding. But when the horse came in and Candace brought her right up next to her, she actually reached up and grabbed the horse's muzzle and was feeling it and, smiling. But she had been non-responsive for quite a while. And then 2 hours later, she died. And, we see this kind of thing all the time, that people respond to, to somebody paying attention to their humanness and who they are and not giving up on them. As people progress with dementia, we seem to learn that their emotions are actually heightened because they can't communicate what it is that's in their heart and the things that they need. And a lot of it is fear, frustration, anger at why can't you understand what I'm trying to tell you. And one of the bigger things that's missed is grief. we have people live with us till they pass away. So at the ranch, you know, a lot of people are, you know, when they do pass away, many places sort of just, you know, when my mom was in a nursing home, she lost I don't know how many roommates, and it was just like they disappeared, and nobody knew. Whoa! Nobody knew what you know, what had happened to them. They just disappear. And we always have bring all our residents together. I don't care what stage of dementia they're in. They know when someone from the group is gone. And we tell them that they passed away. We pray with them. We give them an opportunity to talk about them. And we celebrate their life. And, you know, we have many, many people that will talk and say things about the person when you think they wouldn't have even paid attention or noticed. Whoops, I don't know how to do this. Laura, how do I get this out of the middle of the screen? I can't hear you.
Sorry, what are you trying to get out of the middle of the screen?
Don't you see this? Are you seeing this? The where everybody's talking?
The chat box? Oh, you can pull it to one side. But no, we're not. We see our own chat boxes. We don't see yours. You can grab it like a window and move.
It's the whole thing. Yeah, but I can't get to the top of it.
So you see where it says chat in that bar. If you could just click on there and drag the window.
Okay. I don't. Do you guys see that it's covering up everything on my end?
No, it's just on your screen.
Oh. Well, I'm not sure what it is doing, but I can't get to the top of it because it is higher than my screen.
We're seeing your slides going backwards now. So you can't close your chat box either.
Oh, okay.
If you do you see where the little chat bubble is?
Do you see the button?
Do you see in your Zoom window, Judy? There's a chat bubble. It's the button that's next to the share screen. Oh, you're not seeing that, are you? You've got meeting controls up.
No, I don't see any of it.
So under the meeting controls menu, you might have a chat button there under meeting controls.
Yeah. I don't even get that.
You don't have that either.
Huh. Oh, meeting control. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now, that happens to this screen that's in the way. But let me try something else. I apologize to people for this.
If you,
I don't know how to get rid of this stupid thing. Hang on. Oh, here. Oh, all right. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm not your best person for. Okay, now I just need to make this big again, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, this will work. I just want to get to where I was, which was there. Okay, this is fine. Communication tips. I guess those of you that have to be happy to hear your feedback on what works best for you. When we're dealing with people who are nonverbal, we're always approaching from the front because many of the people, especially with Parkinson's dementia or some of the other types, have problems with peripheral vision, and you need to be able to be aware of that so that you don't frighten them or come up and startle them. make eye contact, be at the same level. Nobody likes to be stood over and talked to. Smiling puts me at ease. Speak slowly and clearly. This is one of the hardest things for caregivers to learn to do, is to wait and allow the person to respond, because sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4 minutes for that person to respond and process what it is they want to say. So having to allow time for response is critical. I need to get back to this again. Um, I don't know why this isn't. Okay. Learn nonverbal communication. You know, part of the things that we've learned from the people still communicate with us. They just don't communicate the way most people expect them to. And they do communicate nonverbally long after they, you know, all the way through till the day they die. And a lot of those things are emotions, pain, tension, fear, sadness, anxiety, you know, comfort, calm. We need to know what that person is communicating by knowing them well enough to read that nonverbal communication. All behavior is an attempt at communication. We have learned this. We've proven it over 15 years. Most of our residents come to us from a psych hospital where they've been over-medicated and, you know, to treat the symptom of them supposedly having behavior and being out of control. We bring them, we reduce the psychotropic drugs and get to know the person as a human being. And the behavior goes away. This isn't rocket science, because they're so used to having to act out in order to get any of their needs looked at, that this has just, it's, you know, terribly important to be able to understand and meet the unmet needs. Sundowning is a name maybe a lot of the people who have cared for people in the system have heard. We don't have sundowning. You know, sundowning is nothing more than a name that was put on people's anxious behavior at certain times of the day. And most of it is like late afternoon or evening. And once you understand that what's going on is their biological clock is telling them that they should be doing something different. Either they come home from work or they're supposed to be milking the cows. You know, we've had, because we're rural, we've had several farmers. And once you get to know the farmer, if he was a dairy farmer and he starts getting anxious at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all you need to do is walk up to him and validate his feeling and say, we know that you're anxious because you know those cows have to get milked. And we just want to be able to let you know that your brother Melvin's milking the cows today, so everything is okay. And this whole behavior goes away. But it's because we're validating the emotion behind the anxiety. We're letting them know that we understand. Wandering is nothing more than people wanting to go somewhere. You know, most people don't like sitting in a chair most of their life. And the fact that they're wandering, or what other people call wandering, is they're looking for something. They have a need, and it's up to us as caregivers to identify what that need is in that particular person. And, you know, or if somebody really wants to go outside, take them outside. And especially here in the winter in Minnesota, they don't stay out very long. And, you know, it's just critical that we understand the the emotion and the feeling and the need behind what other people call behavior. With physical aggression, prevention is key. There is no way once someone is totally wound up and is physically aggressive that you can change that without either restraint or some kind of medication. It's prevention. You have to prevent that from ever happening by meeting the needs before they get out of control. And, I guess all the trainings that I went to earlier on too, that was what they said. You can't manage aggressive behavior. You have to prevent it. And, that's our whole model of care has been built on prevention and being proactive, meeting people's needs, knowing who they are, respecting who they are. So, I guess there's a few tips. Examine your own beliefs and perceptions, because that is huge. That there's a direct correlation between what you think is happening to someone with later stage dementia that can't communicate and how much energy you're going to put into trying to communicate with them. Recognize how those beliefs affect your ability to see the feeling behind all behavior. Acknowledge your own limitations. It can be stressful when you don't understand and you're trying to understand, but your anxiety rolls over to the person with dementia. Get to know each individual as the special human being they are. That's the only way that you can recognize and meet their needs. Go slowly. Give choices. Be flexible. And always remember when something is happening that many caregivers think is the end of the world. Does it really matter? We need to be there for the people with dementia. We need to allow them to be in control and tell us what they need. So in summary is change your perception, validate that person within. Validation is critical. Acknowledge their feelings and emotions. Be flexible. Allow choice. And love unconditionally. Let people know you love them. It doesn't matter where they are, what they are doing. You love them unconditionally and you will be there for them. I guess just for those of you that don't know about what we do, when my mom was eventually passed away, I decided that at 55 I needed to try to make a change. So I did that by borrowing a bunch of money and just building a house and trying to develop a model of specialized dementia care that would treat people with respect and dignity, give them choices, and allow them to live out their life as much as they can. We have people come to us from hospitals. They're severely over-medicated. They're sitting like you see a lot of people in a chair just kind of hanging there. And within a month or 6 weeks, when the nurses are able to cut back the psychotropic drugs that have got them in that position, we can have them out boating. They're out fishing. They're going to parades. They're doing all kinds of things. And they can do that all the way up until the day they die. No, they're not. As people get further advanced, they sleep more, but that's okay. It's just that we're communicating with them emotionally every single day. And it's been an incredible journey. These are the 2 homes that we built. These homes were founded as a memorial to my mom. I couldn't help her. I couldn't do anything with the system. I was told I was the family member in denial and that all her behavior was being caused by her brain damage. And I knew in my gut, although I had no healthcare experience, that that wasn't true. We've built to restore dignity, choice, and quality of life to those with dementia. These are just a few of the barriers that we've found for quality of life, and that's caregivers' perceptions contribute to depersonalization of care. And it totally limits the amount of energy they're willing to put out to communicate with someone. Challenging behavior in the medical system is seen as a symptom of dementia to be controlled with medication. That's totally not true. Depression is treatable, and it's probably half of what's going on with most nursing home residents. And it's a major contributor to anxiety and the subsequent behavior. But depression is treatable. We've been able to make significant changes in our residents just by controlling the depression. And, being able to treat them like a human being and pay attention to them goes a long way to getting rid of that depression. And feeling invisible or like somebody doesn't really care about what you feel or think. Severe understaffing and minimal, if any, specialized dementia training is huge. And long-term care lumps all dementia together and uses the same approach to treatment regardless of the cause. And what we've learned is that we bring in training for all the different experts and all the different types of dementia, because if you don't understand the differences in how the dementia, that particular kind of dementia, affects the brain, you can't meet the needs of those people. So, we just need to eliminate those barriers. And again, I really hope that I didn't talk too much, because I really want to hear what other people have to say. And let's start off with, I'll leave this here for a little bit if you want to, any information. But Laura, why don't you tell me where to go from here?
Well, I wondered actually if Richard, I have lots to say, but I wondered if Richard wanted to sort of wrap up or summarize. What I'm going to ask people to do is to think of questions, any questions that they have for Judy. And if you can, type them into the group chat box, which you access by clicking the chat bubble at the bottom of your screen. If you find typing difficult and you would rather speak, then if you could just let me know via the chat box, unfortunately, to just say I want to ask a question, and then we will unmute your audio and let you ask your question of Judy.
Yeah, I would like to see people. So
yeah, I know. Some people don't have their webcams though. There's Kathy wrote a long message. I don't know if you could see that in your chat box there,
yeah.
Judy. Yeah, okay. Richard?
Judy, I'm sure I speak for everyone living with the symptoms of dementia who watch this, is we wish we were your stepfather or your stepmother.
Actually, you got to be my brother, Richard.
Okay.
We're the same age.
Yeah. What is your ratio of staff members to residents?
We have a 1-to-3 direct care staff ratio, which means the people that actually do the direct care, it's one staff person to every 3 people. And in addition to that, though, we have activity people, we've got animal therapists, we have 4 RNs that are there to be that support for the regular, direct care staff. And that's all been necessary in order to bring this type of care to fruition. It's more staff intensive, but by God, I'm working on the reimbursements so that people will get to understand if you're proactive and you treat people like human beings, they have better health, they have better outcome, and it's way cheaper.
Judy, my question is, we have some people diagnosed with dementia here today with us. And I wonder if you have any pointers on, as they start to examine their care options for the future, including long-term care, what sorts of questions they should be asking and what should they be looking out for? I know
I honestly feel that one of the best things you can do when you're looking for long-term care is to ask first what their philosophy is about how people are to be treated. If they're doing person-centered care is the buzzword everybody uses, but people use it and then they don't always do it. I would focus highly on what their staff ratios are, and yet I'm sure you'd be somewhat limited to what's available because, places are severely understaffed, and it's just because they have not been able or willing to step out of the box and staff to what they know they need rather than what their money will cover.
Okay.
I do think it's really important. Staff rate, no matter how good the staff are, if they cannot meet the person's needs. They barely are meeting physical needs. So staff ratios are critical. And the philosophy of the place, if they're looking to pay attention to the person, I think it would be interesting to have people ask the question what the staff do to meet your emotional needs and spiritual needs in addition to the physical stuff.
Mm-hmm. Steve says he just went through this placing with his mom in long-term care, and all the right answers were being given while we were looking, but needs are not being met after placement.
And those are the things that happen. I mean, people are out there marketing their places. I guess I get really frustrated because they put more money into their fancy buildings for marketing, and it all boils back to staff ratios. And when people are giving you a sales pitch for a place in long-term care, when they're quoting staff ratios, oftentimes they're quoting the whole staff that is around in the area and not necessarily the direct care staff. Those are the things I think people have to be more aggressive at asking, not just how many does that include when they're giving the staff ratio? What does that all include? If it some places actually include the person cleaning the floors when they count their staff ratio.
But some places train their staff, even the floor cleaners, to be.
And that is good. Yeah, that is good. But the idea of who's taking care of your loved one and how much time they have with each person is critical. If you've got 2 people caring for 20 people, which in a lot of places, dementia places, it's like that, there's no way that you can meet the emotional needs of those people. You're barely getting physical needs met. We tried different staff ratios, and when we got back to 1 to 3 for direct care staff, that's where we had to be. I mean, we've even overstaffed to find out what that was. But to be able to keep people like in our environment, it depends on the place too. We keep people, they age in place. So we have people all the way from earlier stage to death. And, you know, all of the people need that same attention to their humanness and their emotional needs. And you have to have the right number of staff, but you also have to have those staff trained and supported, because they tend to get back into old behavior when you don't keep up that mentoring piece.
Okay. So we have a comment from IWONA who says, often management believes that those things are happening, but staff don't always have the right training and understanding the needs of the people who live with dementia. So what kind of training is needed? Yeah.
The training that teaches them how to communicate it teaches them to change their perception, number one, about what's happening to these people and the fact that they're still in there. But also they need to know and be taught how to recognize nonverbal communication, or to communicate on an emotional level rather than just the way we're expecting. And I also feel it's critical that there's some mentorship, somebody that's, you know, you can teach your staff, but if somebody's not there mentoring them when they are slipping into old behavior, you know, it really can get out of control really quick.
Okay. Pat Stacy Cohen says, when looking at sites, also make sure that you tour beyond the first floor to go to the dementia units, and you should see people engaged, not just sitting in the halls.
Yes. Yes, and it makes a big difference. You should see people out and not closed up in a room. You know, many places that I've been, everybody's in their rooms, but, you know, there needs to be more active involvement, like with our model of care, and you don't have to do it the way we do it, but our people don't, except if they really need a nap where they're laying out flat, our people aren't in their rooms except to sleep at night. And they're around activity, and no matter what stage they are, they're included in the activity going on in the room. Whether they're able to participate anymore or not doesn't matter. They're hearing it, they're being a part of it, they're being stimulated emotionally. And we've had proof of this long after. I know somebody here talked about laughter yoga, and we did laughter yoga. Well, Kathy knows, she was filming it out at the ranch, and it was just amazing. We had a gentleman who slept throughout the whole activity. It was just almost like he wasn't there. His daughter was there. She was trying to wake him up and get him to be participating, and we were really noisy. And when the activity stopped and when it was over, probably 5 minutes later, this gentleman just started to laugh out loud because the activity stopped, and then he had heard it. He didn't act like he was hearing it, but he just started laughing and making the same noises that we had all been making when we were actually doing the activity. It was pretty incredible.
Before I go to the next question, having visited Lakeview Ranch, I just wanted to add that the layout of most of the ranch, other than the bedrooms, is very home-like, with great rooms and the kitchen's right there, and with all the staff around, it feels very much like a family environment. So I think that's really, to myself, that seems really key, that the residents are there with everybody else, and it has a family atmosphere. They're just automatically included in everything. So there really aren't any hallways for people to be sitting in, as I recall.
No.
No.
But even in their bedrooms, you know, they don't need to be in their bedrooms. They need to be around life, you know, and things going on. And sure, people after lunch, they'll take a nap in the recliner, but that's okay, you know. but they don't have to be shuffled off to their rooms where they're going to be totally alone.
Right, that's right. Just to let you know, Julie Rice is here with her dad. So I think
Good.
in the background, she's here
Oh.
somewhere. I saw her. A question from Phil to Judy. Do you focus on behaviorally challenged patients or general population?
We do both, but mostly behavioral challenged because no place else will take them. And that was my initial focus because of my experience with my mother. I knew there had to be a way to care for these people and give them have them live out life with a quality of life, and it's not like we don't ever. I mean, our people are, most of them, probably 80-90% of them are people who have been kicked out of multiple places. We've had several people who have been left in hospitals in the Jerry Psych units for 100 days at a time because no provider would take them because of their history of behavior.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is sad. I mean, it should never happen.
Yeah.
Because what we do is, in the 15 years, we have had one gentleman, I should say this, that we were not able to deal with. And we did take him. His wife actually moved with him from Oklahoma because the only place they had that would take him was a VA hospital where there was no interaction, but if they wanted to defecate on the floor, somebody walked behind him and cleaned it up, but it was so demoralizing. And we did say we would try, and he came and he was 46 years old. He had severe PTSD. We learned a lot. We learned that we don't do as well with PTSD. And he was 6'5" and weighed 250 pounds. And the thing that was so different with him having PTSD was that his triggers were like instant. And he was so big that you wouldn't see anything coming on. He'd be walking in the hallway with one of our nurses just laughing and giggling, and 2 seconds later he had her by the neck up against the wall. And so we kept him for about a month, and then he had to move on because it was too dangerous for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a learning experience. We don't usually take as younger people with PTSD at this point. We have a lot of other mental illness, but a lot of times some of it coincides with dementia.
Okay, lots of comments. I'm going to try and work through these. Janet Pollock, I want to read this one out. She says, Kentucky is listening too. As we have begun targeted education, it began with Richard coming to speak to nursing home staff, which I think was fairly recent, is
Yes.
often met with an awareness that staff never asks a resident with dementia what they feel or what they want to say. It has been about giving care and forcing on a person what we think they need without validating that. I would love to have Judy speak to our statewide group in coordination with a great pharmacist we are using to teach the reduction of antipsychotic use. I think we need a tag team approach to answer the question of what can I do. Janet, I agree with you about the tag team approach, and with that, I would actually include, well, you've already had Richard come to speak, but a lot of what Judy has said is mirrored by the people who we've worked with early onset, some of whom are in our webinar today, through various programs to gather their input. I'd include with the tag team approach, maybe one or two people with dementia with early onset who can communicate a lot of what Judy is saying as well.
And it's critical that people listen to the people with dementia. I mean, I've learned so much because we listen to our residents, and also from Richard. I mean, his visits out here have been amazing. He just goes over to the ranch and he hangs out with our staff and helps them understand what someone might be needing. And I remember so many of the times that he has said things to Julius and I that just, it was like a big aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that needs to be combined. We need to collaborate on all different things so that we can produce something that's useful for people. But it's listening to the people who have dementia, tell us what they need, and then allow us to hopefully go as far as we can to meet those needs.
Mm-hmm. One of our participants here today mentioned staff using baby talk. How have you managed to teach your staff not to use baby talk with people with dementia?
They know when they come in that they better not get caught. Because it is, our whole training programs are based on adult conversation. And, a huge thing is that when you're talking to someone with dementia, if you understand that that's still an adult, whole human being, the same person they always were, you're not going to talk to them like that. You talk to them just like we talk between each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think people get into that mode where they think, I've had a lot of people say to me, they think that when you have progressive dementia, you start to regress, to be acting like a child. And that needs to be that whole piece needs to be doused, because that's not true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our people are the same people they were before they got dementia, and they remain that way till the day they die.
Mm-hmm. Steve made a comment that, Judy, you're talking about caregivers and loved ones letting go of themselves and coming into the world of the patient as best they can.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess dropping preconceived notions. You went over some of the preconceived notions that caregivers might have. And
well, and a lot of it is just things like, what we think they have to be able to do. I can explain it. One that I always repeat this because I've had Joanne Koenig Cost out, to the one that wrote Learning to Speak Alzheimer's, out to train our staff. And I remember her telling the story of how her husband got dementia about the same time she had just had a child, their last baby. And so her husband and her child were in depends at the same time, or in diapers. And she said that as she tried so desperately to keep him functioning the way she thought he should be, and she said one day she was giving the baby a bath, and she had saved and just gotten a whole set of Teflon pans that she hadn't had before, and she was so excited about them, nonstick cookware. And she came out, and here her husband had been in the kitchen, and he took all of those pans and he scrubbed all the Teflon off of them. And she said her initial reaction was to go over there and scream at him and strangle him. And she said, that doesn't happen overnight, but you have to keep pushing yourself to say to yourself, does this really matter?
mm-hmm.
Because it's our instincts that go, and us deciding what we think's important.
Right. That's right.
And in real life, a lot of it is not important. But we, as the caregivers, have to change the way we think. Right. And monitor our own behavior.
Right. Oh, Kathy has to say goodbye. Sorry, Kathy, to see you go. Did you want to come on here, Kathy, and say Kathy was on our webinar in October. Kathy, do you want to unmute? And
I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
I can even try to figure out how to come on and wave goodbye if I find where the video is. But it's always a pleasure to see Judy again. And we don't have enough connection, but happily I have a lot of connection with Laura and with Richard, and I'm happy to meet all the rest of you on these webinars. It's been really great. I can't see where to put my video back on, Laura. Sorry.
No, I can't I can't bring it up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to try to be on the 17th for the next thing, and I was looking forward to. Oh wait, maybe this is going to be it. I was looking forward to being on the Halloween one, and I had a costume ready. Then I couldn't do it that day, so I've gotten special permission to wear my Halloween costume next week. So if you don't recognize me, the next time,
Yeah. Oh, there
I
you
love
are.
it. There you are.
okay. Anyway, the next time I hope I'm going to look very different, but I won't keep it on the whole time. Anyway, happy holiday to everybody, and it's always nice to meet you at least this way, and I look forward to meeting several of you in other ways as I've heard from you since that webinar that we did, and it looks like I'm going to get to meet some of you in person, so best to everybody.
Okay, thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Judy, why do you think it is that people don't get it?
They're not willing to accept that they don't know what's best. There's many people who, I mean, I go out speaking about what we do, and well, you know that, and I get questioned lots of times, especially by people with a lot of degrees, and they'll ask me what my credentials are. And I'll say, I don't have a degree. I just have life experience. And the fact that I'm willing to admit what I don't know. And this whole thing for me has been a quest to learn what the people with dementia need, not what I think they should need.
Mm.
And, you know, there's a lot of my own beliefs and feelings that I've had to let go of. You know, I didn't have the experience when I went into this, but I do think there's an awful lot of people out there that have a lot of education and get stuck in their belief system or thinking they're right. You know, I mean, I don't have any scientific proof that, you know, what we do actually affects these people, but the outcomes show it does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's all we need, you know. When you have people on their deathbed that haven't spoken for a while look up at you and say, thanks for not giving up, just that plain. It's amazing.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, we are going to wrap up here
else?
shortly. Yeah, any questions? Great comment. Maybe we get it all from the articles, books, and websites we are told we must read. Right.
I think you get a lot of, you know, not the greatest information from some of that. And, you know, there's a lot of publicity out there from places that are based on their need to raise money, you know, and creating fear in someone makes them open their pocketbook. But, you know, for me, I think I was fortunate that I had no healthcare background. I was a barbecued rib salesman. So, you know, I was able to step into this. And when the naysayers or the people in healthcare all told me I was crazy and that, you know, yes, it was a nice dream, but you'll never make it work. And, you know, you have to be willing to buck up against that and to, I think, Laura and Richard, about getting a group together of people with dementia that can go up against some of this and tell people how they really feel. But we still have to get them to listen. You know,
Right.
that's sometimes the hardest thing.
Right.
To admit that maybe they don't know the right thing. Or maybe there is no right thing for everybody.
Yes, I agree with you, and we are working. Some of the people here today are working on we've only had one meeting, so I don't like to start announcing. It would be better when it's actually, but it's, yeah, but
I hope I can get involved with that because I'm not as, won't be as tied down as I have been in the past. And I really want to be a part of advocating for the voice of the people with dementia.
Right. I think that an effort of bringing together the voices of the people with dementia will allow us to create an information resource for caregivers that will be very different from what is typically presented.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Let me see. We got. By the way, I should mention also, there is a website that Richard and I work on. It's called I Can, I Will, and it's attached to the Alzheimer's Disease International website. And I'll just type in the URL here. And it's an idea library. And there are ideas from people with dementia, from caregivers, from researchers, from all different walks of life. There's about 200 on there. Lots of different activities, lots of different thoughts, lots of different tools, lots of different ways of looking at things. And because Richard and I edit it, we try and make sure that everything that's on there is pretty much in line with the sorts of things also that Judy has been a big influence on us, and Richard on her. So a lot of what's on there, most of everything that's on there is in line with what Judy's talked about today. So I'll just put in that URL here. I can remember it. UK/I can, I will.
And I really want to thank all of the people who have been here today, especially the people who every day are living with some of the limitations that come, and hope that, we can help people be allowed to become their own person, or stay their own person and live their life to the fullest. I mean, over the 15 years, the staff that I have done 500% more than I ever thought would be possible with people of all stages of dementia. Mm-hmm. We take people in very late stage to plays, and the general public looks at us and says, my God, why are you bothering to bring these people? Because they come in a wheelchair and they're probably half asleep and slouched over. And I said, if you have any questions about that, why don't you come and sit next to them and watch as the play begins, or musicals, And all of a sudden they're waking up and their feet are tapping and they're singing, and, then they'll go back to sleep again when they get out. But it's touched them. Mm-hmm. It's touched them in a way that it's really hard to do for some people. Mm-hmm. So, never give up.
Mm-hmm. Judy, so your time is going to be a little more freed up due to the way that Lakeview Ranch is being restructured, all for the good. Do you have any training programs in place? Are you going to be speaking? Are you going to be spreading your model of care around? Or
yeah, that's what I intend to do. I want to be, I'm almost 70. I want to be able to use what I've learned and share it with other people. So yes, I do intend to do a lot more speaking training, using what I've learned, and learning from other people so that we can incorporate more. I mean, this is like a work in progress. It has to be, because everybody's different in anything, that anybody wants to bring forth. I'm doing putting in place a consulting business that I've had for a little while. I just haven't done anything with it, but because it's really critical that we get the word out and we get the public outcry for how people are being treated inappropriately.
Right. Okay, any questions? Any last questions from anybody? Last comments?
I'm trying to figure out if this
You're kind of.
Is there a way for me to figure out if this person being fed down here is Daryl Rice?
Could.
It is.
Yes.
All right. That's the guy that used to live with us, and Julie Rice's dad. Oh wow, that's
Oh, wow.
incredible. Hello, Daryl. Oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad to see him. He had some rough times before he came to us, and then now that he's back with his family, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank you guys, everybody involved.
Thank you, Jude.
You're amazing. Just keep teaching those of us that want to learn.
You practice what we all preach, and it's so wonderful to find people like you. Thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Richard.
Yeah. Thank you, Judy. Meeting you was really life-changing, and you continue to be a huge influence on the work that I do. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for having me. Now, do we just click?
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll wrap up now. Visit our website at minds-meeting.com, and I'll put it in the chat box, and you will see the calendar of events, of upcoming events, and also our donation box. And you can also contact us and I will also have the recording of today's webinar along with Judy. Do I have permission to post your slides on our website so that we have it all together with the video? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll get those. Oh, I have them. No, I don't have today's.
Yeah.
I need you to send those to me.
Yeah, I'll say.
Okay, so those will be on the website. You all will get an email under our A Meeting of the Minds banner. That will have the link to that recording. We also have our Memory Cafe next week, so go and register for that, and you can do that from our website as well. And so we'll see some of you next week. Otherwise, we'll see you on February 11th for the next webinar. And also, please give some consideration to how you or your organization, or maybe a group at church or any other fundraising organization that you might be attached to, could sponsor a delegate with dementia to attend the international conference, the Alzheimer's Disease International Conference in Puerto Rico. You can contact me or Richard through the website as well. So thank you again. Thank you all for attending today. Really appreciate it. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Richard, I want to reach out and